There have been a ton of new releases over the past few weeks. I've put together a list of all of these new releases, at least the ones that I think are pretty interesting, and we're going to talk about them in one video. So, without further ado, let's flip the camera and take a look at my picks for new releases that you should definitely pay attention to. As with all of my videos, some of these watches are very affordable. Some of them are not so affordable. However, most of these watches are reasonably priced. There is one that I would say that is not, but we'll talk about that a little later on. The first watch, or first two watches that I want to talk about, are very reasonably priced. They are Timex. These are full titanium Timex, the Expedition North collection. They've come out with a new version of the Expedition North. It's called the Pioneer. It's a dive style watch. So this is something that they haven't done in the past. This is a full titanium watch with a full titanium bracelet. It's the same bracelet that I put on my watch, which is the Expedition North GMT, that came off of the James brand edition. So they've taken this bracelet and now they're using it on a very similar watch. So this looks very similar to the original Expedition North GMT. However, it's a dive style bezel that this one is getting. It gets all the same specs as well, except of course the movement. The movement is a Seiko NH35 rather than a 34. So that means that this is a time and date. This gets a sapphire crystal, a titanium case, a titanium bracelet, titanium case back crown. The bezel is also titanium. The aluminum is metal that is painted. I believe it is aluminum. 200 meters of water resistance, and it gets some green accents. You get a green seconds hand. You could also get this on a strap. They offer it with a black strap or a green strap. Price on this is $449. That is on the strap. It's a little bit more expensive if you want it on the bracelet. I highly recommend getting this on the bracelet. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. They have also now upgraded the GMT and are offering it with this bracelet. Now, I don't want to say I started this trend or I'm the one who came up with this idea, but I did do this 2 years ago, and it's taken Timex this long to put the bracelet on the watch. I have no idea why, but finally they have done it, and I think it looks fantastic. The one on the bracelet is around 700 and change. It's on the more expensive side for a Timex, but if you look at the specs, any other brand offering this watch with a full titanium case and bracelet, sapphire crystal, 200 meters of water resistance, and a Seiko movement, it would be more expensive or on par with this watch. It was one of my most worn watches last year, and I definitely want to get this diver in for review. If you love the watches that I talk about here on my channel, you're really going to love the website that I'm about to tell you about. It's called Wristrebels. Wristrebels is a website that has all of those small micro brands and independent brands that are really hard to find, all in one place. Brands like Seiko Design, Mon, Formex, Awake, and Bow Blue, and many other brands you won't find anywhere else. Definitely check out Wristrebels at wristrebels.com. Also check out their Instagram at Wristrebels, and if you end up buying something, tell them that WatchChris sent you. Nivada Grenchen. I really love Nivada Grenchen, and I've said this in the past, they've come out with a lot of reissues of models that they've done from their history, and they've done them really well. They've reissued these models really well, and they have been very well received with good reason. They're high quality, really good looking watches that are Swiss made. Today, well, not today, on April 1st, and this was not an April Fool's joke, they released a new version of the Antarctic. The Antarctic is their very popular explorer style field watch. This one is a little bit different. They're making it in a bunch of different colors. They are very limited. I don't know the numbers on here, but I believe they are very, very low numbers that they're making of these watches, and they're getting an automation. Now, I've been around, I've been collecting for a very long time. There are watches on the internet, on places like eBay, that have very simple automations on their case back. Usually these are somewhat erotic. Now, they decided not to go that route, although it is still technically an erotic case back is what they're called. This is two penguins, and it's a little bit more X-rated than your normal case back. with a display case back, but I think what they were trying to do here is get a laugh out of the person who is looking at it, and it definitely works. This is a funny little joke, but it's not a joke because they are actually selling these watches. They're getting a Soprod hand-wound movement. Of course, these are Swiss-made watches, 100 meters of water-resistant sapphire crystal on the front and back, and they're making it in a bunch of different colors. Pricing on this, I'm not exactly sure how much these cost yet, but I think they are around $1,000. Between $1,000 and $1,500 is what I would imagine these would cost, and that is a very good price for obviously a historic brand doing something very playful. And since they are very limited, I would imagine these would become collector's items in some way. Very cool that they're doing this, and very unexpected. Talking about unexpected, Longines has been doing some amazing things with their watches, and they are continuing with that with the release of the new HydroConquest. Their very popular dive watch has gone through a few iterations over the past few years, and it feels like they are tweaking these watches to make them absolutely perfect. They came out with the HydroConquest GMT, a watch that I bought and loved. I ended up selling it to fund another watch, as I do a lot, and I do very much regret it. However, I think I will probably end up buying one of these new HydroConquest. They are absolutely beautiful. They're coming in two different sizes right off the bat, 39 and 42 millimeters, very similar to how the GMT was presented. However, they're releasing these on release rather than staggering them over a year, which is really good. 11.7 millimeters thick is what they are saying. Obviously stainless steel. There's a bunch of different colors. There's blue, there's green. My favorite is the black dial with the gray bezel. It's like a ghost bezel, but that version comes on a mesh bracelet that gets a lot of adjustability. There's on-the-fly micro adjust, and there are actual links that you could remove from the bracelet. So you will get a very good fit with a bracelet like this. And a lot of people are comparing it to the No Time to Die from Omega, their bigger sister. However, this is a lot better of a bracelet, although not in titanium like that No Time to Die. But this is a really nice bracelet that they're putting on here, and I want this watch on this bracelet. I think it looks fantastic. 300 meters of water resistance. You're getting the L888.5, which is of course exclusive to Longines. It gets hours, minutes, seconds, and a date. 72 hours of power reserve. There's the H-Link bracelet, which they have used on the HydroConquest GMT. If you want it on that, it's $2,200. If you want it on the mesh bracelet, and I think this is the only time that I've seen a mesh bracelet be more expensive than an H-Link bracelet, it's $2,400. So $2,200 for the H-Link, $2,400 for that mesh bracelet. I really like that mesh bracelet. I would definitely go with that. Like I said, bunch of different colors, but my favorite is that ghost bezel. I think it looks fantastic. I love a world timer, and I love a world timer that looks more expensive than it actually is. This is a watch that I got hands-on with way before the release. I got to see very early prototypes of this watch at a dinner that I went to for Baltic at my friend's restaurant at Lore in Brooklyn. Lore, Brooklyn, definitely check them out. Really great food over there, and I go there very, very often. I went to a Baltic preview at that restaurant for their new world timer. They came out with 3 different stone dials, and they just recently released these last week. The world timers are in a great size, 37 millimeters, 100 meters of water resistance, and this is getting a pretty good movement for Baltic, in my opinion, because I'm happy that they went with a Soprod movement. It's the C125. This is a movement that I've seen in a lot of other watches. There are not a lot of watches using this movement. It sort of sits in between an ETA 2824 and a 2892. Although it's a GMT movement, so the GMT movement versions of those watches. This is not a high-end movement from Soprod, but it's not their cheapest movement, and I like that. So this is sort of a mid-range movement from Soprod. You're getting 120 click world time bezel, sapphire crystal, and it's fully loomed. So all of the cities on the bezel is loomed, and you're getting a lot of lume on the dial. There's no display case back, so that would probably be my only complaint about this watch. Because you have a really nice movement inside, it's actually very good looking, and it goes in a lot more expensive watches. I think a display case back would be awesome for this watch. Price on this is around $1,500. Seems like a lot of money, but when you consider what you're getting here and the fact that it's getting that C125, a movement that's used in a lot of other expensive watches like Parallel, this is actually a really good price, and it's such a good looking watch. I love a stone dial with a world timer. I think you can't go wrong. I wish the next two watches were the most expensive watches on this list, but they aren't. There's one other watch that's a little bit more expensive than these, and I have some things to say about it. I think it's a pretty cool watch, but the watches that we're talking about right now are Hautlence. Hautlence have come out with a new Lab series. They put a lot of work into these watches, and the prices that they ask for, I think, is very, very good. They are expensive, but you are getting such a cool watch for your money. They have released two new Lab series in celebration for their 10th anniversary. These get these beautiful copper patinaed dials. They've come out with a new small seconds version that has a pattern that radiates out from that small seconds down at the 6 o'clock, and then they're coming out with a GMT version. That GMT version gets the same material for the dial. However, it has a map on the dial which looks very, very different. And then of course you have a track, an inner track that is basically part of the dial, but it looks like it's applied to the dial. It's a 24-hour track towards the center of the dial. So I would say I would go for the small seconds. This dial is a little bit busier than I would like from Hautlence because I love their dials and how simplistic they are. I did a full video on a watch that is very similar to this watch. You get a lot of details in these dials. There's curved indices. There's a piece of sapphire that sits on top of it. It's pretty incredible when you get up to the details on these dials. Also, you're getting a really nice movement inside. They're putting either a Sellita SW360, which is that small seconds, or a 330, which is that GMT. And the movement gets a custom rotor that is hand engraved and patinaed. So this is a lot of work that goes into these dials because they're all made by hand. And then of course, there is the 3D printed titanium, grade 5 titanium cases that are very organic and evacuated. So they're almost like a skeletonized case. You get a display case back. You have a boxed domed sapphire crystal as well. Beautiful watches, really nicely sized. They're around 38 millimeters, somewhere in that range. These are really good looking watches, and like I said, they're almost like a bespoke watch. When you see one in hand, you will be impressed. Price on this is 5,900 euros for the small seconds, and then it's 6,500 euros for the GMT. So not cheap watches, but very good looking, really handmade bespoke watches that you wouldn't normally find at this price range because there's a lot of work that goes into them, a lot of time, and just great looking watches as well. You'll never see anybody else with one of these on their wrist, and that's kind of why I like them so much. So if you follow my new Instagram, the WatchChris official Instagram, after my Instagram was deleted by Meta for absolutely no reason, and I really can't get in touch with anybody, I'm not bitter about it. If you follow me on Instagram at my new Instagram, WatchChris Official, please follow me there if you can. I recently went to a gala, yes, a gala at the Guggenheim here in New York City, celebrating the 50th anniversary of EcoDrive. And they packed the house. It was pretty amazing, and they had some really cool watches on hand. They were recently released. These were called the Photon. These were limited editions, again, in celebration of 50 years of EcoDrive. There was a silver titanium version, and then was a coated titanium version that had some gold tones to it, which was really good looking. You had micro adjust on these watches. These kind of echoed an integrated bracelet watch, but at the same time, they kind of didn't look like an integrated bracelet watch. These looked a lot more expensive than they actually are. I couldn't guess the price, and when I found out the price on these, I was very impressed. And these are limited edition, like I said, so if you are interested in these, definitely pick up one of these at this price. They're powered by the caliber E036. It's a solar movement, essentially. It's obviously an eco drive, but the movement is underneath a bunch of different layers, and the layers really make up the dial. There's really no dial here. It's just a bunch of layers that make the dial. You have hours, minutes, and central seconds. There is no date, which I really love. Because it's an eco drive, you get 12 months on a full charge, and they're very accurate, plus or minus 15 seconds per month. Much better than COSC certified. Very, very accurate watches. The color on the dials, there's a little bit of color on each one of these. So one has like a little bit of a blue color, and that is done by etching structural film. So they've been doing this a lot. They've been working with a major brand to create these films that sort of create color but aren't colored. And then there's a bunch of other patterns that are put on top of this, and when you're looking at it, it is kind of mesmerizing. They're making one in blue and one in gold, and they kind of shift in color a little bit depending on the angle of the light. And like I said, the price on these are incredible. Price is $995 for the one that's not coated, $1,195 for the one that is. And these are limited to 5,000 pieces. I know that sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, considering this is Citizen, and these will eventually sell out. I don't know how long that will take, but when people start seeing these on other people's wrists, they're going to want one. The next watch took me by surprise. It's a Raymond Weil. Now, I don't talk about them very often here on my channel. However, I have spoken about this brand a few times here about watches that sell for a really good price on the secondary market, and some of their newer designs. I think they're doing some really cool things, and I've talked about a few of their new releases in videos like this. This is yet another new release from them, and it really did catch my eye. This is called the 50, and it's in celebration of 50 years of Raymond Weil. So they've been around for a pretty long time. I didn't know they've been around for that long. This is limited to 50 watches, so that gives you an idea. This is an extremely limited edition for them, and they are still a family-owned company. Again, something else I didn't know about Raymond Weil. Raymond Weil, I don't know which one it is, so please don't get mad at me down in the comments below. You're getting a textured sector dial. So there are 4 different patterns, or 4 patterns that are in different directions on the center of that dial, and it looks really good. This is a 37 millimeter case, and it gets a white gold bezel. Yes, a white gold bezel on a Raymond Weil. That is pretty cool. That's not something that they do all the time, and it's only 10.75 millimeters thick. There's a reason for that, because they are using 50 vintage calibers for this watch. It's a Valjoux caliber 23-6, which of course is a chronograph movement. It has a column wheel. So they're from the year 1976. That's kind of the whole point behind this, 50 years, 1976. Raymond Weil is actually restoring and hand decorating each one of these movements. And you do get to see that movement from the back. If they put a solid case back on here, I would have flipped out. They did put a clear case back on here, a sapphire case back, so that is a good thing. Price on this is 8,650 Swiss francs. That is a lot of money. Even if you're getting a Valjoux movement, that is somewhat hand finished, so there's some hand finishing that are going into this. It's near $10,000 for a watch that's from a brand that really doesn't demand that price point. They're putting a lot of effort into it, and you are getting gold, that beautiful movement, but still it is very expensive. And it's one of those watches, every time you show it to someone, you have to explain all the different details of it to explain to them why it's a cool watch. And it's just a tough sell at $10,000 for me. The next watch is another watch that I got to see sometime last year, and I was very impressed with it. In fact, this is the only Amida Digitrend right now that I think I would buy. Maybe I would buy the sapphire version as well, but this one really caught my eye. It's a NASA collaboration, and they are taking a lot of inspiration from flight suits, from the white NASA flight suit. And with what's going on now in our return to the moon, I think this is a really cool watch. NASA watches in general, I've always loved the idea of a NASA watch, and I really love the way that this one looks. It gets a DLC coated stainless steel case, so it's 316L stainless steel with a polished white ceramic top shell. So there's this portion that's in black that has little grooves in it. That reminds you of sort of the cuffs of a spacesuit, and then of course that white ceramic reminds you of the actual spacesuit itself, the white portions of it. And then you get a beautiful Velcro strap that is basically, looks like it could be part of, or it was made out of a flight suit. It's so cool. The base caliber is again the Soprod Newton P092, which I love. I love the Newton. I think they've worked out all of the quirks that they have with this movement. It's their higher grade movement as well. It's great looking, and you get to see it from the back on this watch. I think this is a great watch, and I don't think the price is out of the ballpark. This is around $4,000 if you want this watch, and it is a limited edition. I think they're limiting this to around 100 pieces. So 100 pieces for a watch that looks like this watch, and I think it solves that problem that I have with the general problem that I have with Amida and the Digitrends. When you look down, it just looks like a square of metal. This doesn't look like that. This has a lot more character on wrist, especially with that special strap and the special case. This looks just completely different. I really like this, and I think I want one. The last two watches I want to talk about, kind of ironic. If you follow me on Instagram, again, if you follow me on my new Instagram, I recently posted there at WatchChris Official that there is a new watch in my collection, an NWA. I got a Seiko. I said, Seiko, I'm back. And then of course, Seiko had to turn around and stab me in the back immediately. I got an SLA 079, and they almost immediately released a new version of this watch, a slightly upgraded version that, yes, is more expensive, but it got everything that I wanted, that I've been holding back on from buying a Seiko for. This is a new Marine Master. It's powered by an 8L movement. That's what I wanted, the 8L45. I have the 8L35 in mind. This is a new version of the Marine Master, the HBF001. They made two different versions. There's the HBF002, which is a limited edition that gets a very colorful dial. I really like that one. It's more expensive. That's not the one I'm talking about in this video. The one that I'm talking about is that 001. I am so upset about it because it is basically the exact same watch that I just bought. However, it gets a lot of upgrades, specifically around the bracelet. You are getting on-the-fly micro adjust. So this is one of the first Seikos to really have a full on-the-fly micro adjust system that is built into the clasp. So mine has the old clasp. This one has the new clasp that they will be using for their dive watches. Also, it does get that upgraded movement, so it gets the 8L45. So you're getting 72 hours of power reserve with this watch rather than 50 from the 8L35. Not that that is bad, 50 hours is fine, but obviously 72 is much better. Other than that, there aren't very many differences between the new and the old versions. Both are still 300 meters of water resistance. You're getting this in a 42.6 millimeter case, which is essentially the same. You're getting ceramic bezels. There are some slight differences in looks, and I'll throw up a picture if I have it of both of these watches side by side. I'll be doing a full review of my version, the 079, the SLA 079, but I really do like this, and I wish that this had come out, and maybe if it was at the same price, I would have gotten it. It is $700 more than the SLA, and I thought that the SLA, for what you were getting, is a very good price. This takes it up a little bit. You are getting one major upgrade, in my opinion, and that is the clasp. I think the movement is an upgrade as well. It's just extra power reserve, which is great. I love that. But for me, it's that micro adjust that hurts. Anyway, guys, that's my list. Tell me if there's any watches that I missed down in the comment section below, anything that you would have included in this list of new releases. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Follow me on my Instagram, my new Instagram. I am not probably getting back my old Instagram, although I don't know yet. Hopefully it does come back, but in the meantime, please follow me at WatchChris Official if you have not followed me there already. I would very much appreciate it. Help me build my following back because I lost everyone on Instagram and it is very upsetting. I was also featured in the Wall Street Journal, so check out the latest Wall Street Journal. That was released yesterday on April, I think it was April 4th. So definitely check that out as well. I was featured in the style section, a little bit about me and the club, which is pretty awesome. And there were a bunch of other people mentioned in that article as well. Check that out. And like I said, please don't forget to subscribe, like, it's very helpful for the channel. And that's really it, guys. Thank you for logging on. I will catch you guys in the next video.